Welcome to this edition of Exhibit Talk. I'm standing outside the Babe Ruth Room with our Curator of History and Research, John Odell. John, Babe Ruth was not only a great player, but he changed the way the game was played.
He really did. Babe Ruth was an extraordinary player. We forget sometimes that he began his career on the path to the Hall of Fame as a pitcher, but then switched over, became the outfielder that we recognize and know today, and slugged his way into what would eventually be created as the Hall of Fame. This room does a couple of different things. We talk about Babe Ruth the player, but also Babe Ruth the man, and finally Babe Ruth the icon, who is the one person who still casts an incredible shadow almost a century later over the game of baseball.
John, Babe Ruth was a giant of the game. In fact, he out-homered all the other teams in the AL in 1920 and 1927.
It's hard to believe now how huge Babe Ruth was, but he really did. When you think about out-homering every single team in the American League, that's just breathtaking. His plaque begins, he was the greatest drawing card in the history of baseball, and that's really what sums up Babe Ruth. We're standing here in front of Babe Ruth's locker, which is complete with his artifacts in it. We were tremendously fortunate in 1930s when we opened up the National Baseball Hall of Fame. We asked Babe Ruth for some of his artifacts, and he was generous and donated many. And then when he passed on, he also bequeathed many more to the Baseball Hall of Fame. The New York Yankees, the house that Ruth built was Yankee Stadium. The New York Yankees donated Babe Ruth's locker to the Hall of Fame, and so fans today can come here and actually touch Babe Ruth's locker, the same place that he did, right up here when he opened it up every single day when he came to a game, see his uniform there, and imagine themselves being in his place.
And we have several milestone artifacts from Ruth's career, including his 60th home run bat.
That's right. We have a 60th home run bat up in our One for the Books Records Room exhibit. We have his final home run bat right here in the Babe Ruth Room, together with many other artifacts from throughout his career. Babe Ruth was also an amazing athlete in other sports too, in golf and in bowling in particular. So Babe Ruth was, as I mentioned, a great golfer and bowler. We have his bowling ball and we have his bowling bag. We have many trophies from his golfing career, but we also have a number of photos of him with his family, because he was more than simply the great slugger that we know about, and we try in this particular room to show all the different aspects of his character, who he was, and trying to just flesh him out just a little bit.
John, the history books tell us that Babe Ruth himself was just a big kid.
That's right. He was a big kid, and his relationship with kids was an amazing, genuine, and authentic love for kids. They loved him. They felt a kindred spirit with one another. Babe Ruth's history is full of times when people would come out after the game and see him still signing baseballs for kids, or just in street clothes, signing baseball, them crowding all around him. He was famous for going to hospitals and visiting with kids there, but he also did it a lot of times when the press wasn't around. We have photographs of him doing that, but we learn later on as we do research that he was frequently going to hospitals with nobody around except just himself and the kid. And so this was a wonderful thing. We have, even in our exhibit here, a wonderful letter that Babe Ruth wrote to a little boy named Freddie who was suffering from polio, and said, what do you think, Freddie? Someday maybe the announcer will say, now batting for Babe Ruth, Freddie. And so your pal, Babe Ruth. What a great thing to have a handwritten letter from Babe Ruth. That's the kind of thing he did. That's the genuine relationship that he had with kids.
Thank you, John, and thank you for joining us on this episode of Exhibit Talk. You can see Babe Ruth's plaque and learn more about him on our website, baseballhall.org.